Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this NCEA session. My name is Paul Sanfrancesco, and we're going to be learning a little about virtual and blended environment with faith formation. What we're doing today is going over my bio first, little agenda, what we're doing currently in classrooms in the Catholic schools, the options we have to us, the remote, blended, hybrid, and in-person instruction, the use of technology, the good and the bad. Talking about not doing what we did in the classroom before the pandemic. I know it's going to be a hard transition to see what it is going to look like after the pandemic, but technology and what we've done and pivoting to different modes of instruction, we're not going to go back to what we've done. So we really need to look at what are the best practices of technology and lessons we've learned moving ahead and incorporating into a new model of instruction. Tools that are available, keeping the virtual classroom Catholic, give me ideas about what that's going to look like. Moving ahead, what does the structure of classroom and schools look like when we move ahead? Teachers and social media and questions I'll have a slide for. You can email me questions about anything we've talked about today. About me, I'm 25 years in education, Catholic, public, private, and K-12, and university level. I'm a professor at St. Joseph's University. I've been the director of technology of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia for many years. I was a teacher and administrator in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. I served as a public school administrators. I've been in all kinds of arenas. Married 23 years with 3 children, 17, 17, and 15. I'm right in the middle of this world of teaching online with my professional career and my personal life. I give presentations across the country and internationally to parents, schools, and faculties, administrators throughout the world. I had the privilege of speaking at many of your dioceses in many places. And I always use the hashtag creating saints online because the next wave of saints will have a piece of using technology and them becoming saints. Their sainthood is going to be, based on something they've done with technology. If you look at saints in the past using media and radio and books and papers, there's all kinds of history we can learn from them. But moving forward, the next wave of saints, what's going to happen? They're going to do some evangelization using something online. There's going to be a piece of that. We're going to have many saints that come from that arena. That's a piece of their sainthood. So we have saints sitting in front of us that are going to do something great. And technology may be a big piece of how they become saints. Family is everything. That's my family right there. We have to focus on what we do and what you do. Think about your own family situation during this pandemic, from parents to children to grandchildren to nieces and nephews. Every family is different. So when we went to all online learning or hybrid learning or whatever, your family situation is much different than your neighbor's family situation, from a different state, from a different country. Then you have to think about the family situation of our own students. Sometimes we live in bubbles and we think, all the kids in my classroom are the same. It's the same home environment, or think they may be a little different, but no. Some of our students became the caregivers of the families because parents were either out working, had other obligations, not engaged, or, just students were on their own. Others have a different family environment where the parents were home, or they got a teaching pod or things like that, where the students had the ability to really focus on their learning. Everybody is different. And what this pandemic showed us was access to technology is different. Access to information was different. What they were able to do during the pandemic was different in regards to school. So we really had to take a step back and remember, when students come to our buildings, they're ours. We have them in front of us, their engagement thing. When they were home in a blended or virtual environment, you don't know what the environment there was. So you had to pivot, you had to be more flexible, you had to be something because of the family. What are we doing? What is your building doing? What is your diocese doing? What are things doing to give you access to information and resources for the pandemic? The models we're seeing across the country, we know all in person, hybrid, synchronous, asynchronous, a blended, or just all remote. It was really everybody just did whatever they could do during this pandemic. There was no playbook for this. No one's ever done this before. And we managed very well during this. Despite the parent complaints, despite this, despite that, we got through this and we learned from it, and we're going to improve on what we're doing in the future. We know the tools that are out there. There were so many tools that were free or not free we had to pay for. Zoom and Google Meet, Screencastify to record lessons, Screenomatic. These are just a couple. The assessment ones for Flipgrid and Seesaw, and then additional assessment platforms, Padlet, Formative, Quizlet, Kahoot, Google Forms. All of us, forget the PD, we were thrown in and said, here, use them. What I also learned, and I'm going to show you a different website right now, is, let me stop sharing and hold on one second. I'm going to show you this website, which is a wonderful resource. The Archdiocese of Seattle, I know many dioceses across the country did resources for teachers and families, but Seattle did a phenomenal job with all these resources for faith formation during COVID, and they broke it up in topics. Now, there are so many things right here. If you just Google Archdiocese of Seattle formation online resources, here's the Lent ones. I mean, they are phenomenal on what they did. They got videos, they have other things here. They did a great job on curating stuff that teachers could use immediately in their classroom and by topics and stuff. So if you're not familiar with that one, your diocese may have some, but it's a great way to make sure faith formation stays and have resources right there for you to use. Let me bounce back to my PowerPoint here. And here we go. Something to think about when using those tools. Now, the Archdiocese of Seattle ones, everything's free on there. There it is. And the ones I just showed you before on this screen, some are free, some aren't. So sometimes free is not always free. When the pandemic hit, many companies said, here, free, 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 free. But then when September came, oh, this is a charge, this is a charge, this is a charge. So you want to make sure you're using things, A, you can budget for, and B, will still be there and is a viable tool for your school, diocese, parish, whatever that you can use. Because if they're not, then you have to recreate everything. And teachers don't like to recreate things. If you're going to give me a tool, I'm going to create those things. I'm going to use it. I don't want to have to recreate it every semester or every year because it's not free anymore, or I can't afford it, or the school won't buy it for me. Make sure you're using tools. And a lot of these with Zoom and Google Meet have some free components, but they only are for 45 minutes or something like that. So you have to coordinate things. Flipgrid and Seesaw have free components. And there's many other ones. Google, we know, is free. So that's always a good one. Kahoot has some free things in it, but all these things have paid versions in them. With faith formation, be prepared. Spend on the online platform that you know and go through the documents, go through the link, go through the advanced classes, see what's out there. Be prepared because students are going to fly through this. As teachers, we're the ones that have to know what's going to happen in those software programs. Use breakout rooms when possible. Middle and high school, yeah, that's a good thing. Elementary, sometimes you want to keep them all together. Pop up the discussions to monitor questions, go back and forth into those rooms. Engage the chat feature, especially the engage audio. I like speaking in public. Other students do not. They don't want to turn their camera on. They don't have anything to do with it, but they'll put stuff in the chat room. Have those opportunities to go back and forth so you can have multiple opportunities that students can share. Google Forms, gathering feedback also. See what you can gather with Google Forms. You know, yeah, a student may not be engaged in the class, but you have an exit ticket, and you'll see what's there on the. Um, did they pay attention? Did they know what was going on? Do you have to follow up as a teacher to say, hey, maybe I'll send you the recording of that lesson if you missed it? Use screen sharing. This is a great opportunity. We're doing right here is screen sharing. Having that opportunity for students to screen share, showing something that they did, so you have that connection from home that they can share their work and things like that. Schedule sessions and meetings. A lot of times you want to get through your material, and with this virtual environment or blended environment, you really have to worry about, we would bring students up after class and say, hey, are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? We may need to do the same thing during this virtual environment, and many of you may have. We have to keep it as normal or as regular as a normal day, that they know that this is still structured. Record the class. What I've seen the best is we're in a YouTube environment, right? Students can rewind learning. What this has allowed teachers to do is, let's say, hey, a student missed class or with COVID or was out 2 weeks or couldn't get on or something, or they have paid attention. I see with my 3 kids, their teachers record the class and they go back at night when they're doing homework and rewind the class and watch it again and learn from it. Oh my gosh, I missed what Mrs. So-and-so said or Mr. So-and-so said. Well, go back and watch class again. Valuable things. Plus, as teachers, you can learn how you're teaching too. Sometimes when we watch ourselves, it's very hard, but maybe show another colleague, say, hey, go back to when we became teachers, pre-service teachers. When you watched yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I really did that. I'm going to fix that. We all become better at this process. The world of technology and apps are all out there, and there it is. They're using so many different things. But when we talk about faith formation, this app is called Click to Pray. I know I just went over a lot of things that really didn't connect or really influence faith formation, just tools for faith formation when you're using in classrooms and stuff like that. But Click to Pray is an app by the Vatican, and we download it to our phones or iPads, and it reminds you every day to pray. And it has a daily prayer in it. It has a morning prayer, an afternoon prayer, an evening prayer, a monthly prayer, or whatever. And it allows the students, you, your family, to remember to pray. Because what are we doing? We are on our phones constantly, right? This is where we're at. They're not picking up the Bible, or they're not picking up your religion textbook, or they're not doing things like that. They're going to their phones, right? And if you have an app that reminds you to pray, isn't that what we want our students to do? If they're going to Fortnite or they're playing a game on their app or they're checking their email, all of a sudden they see that app that says Click to Pray. I didn't pray today. And they click on it and they do the morning prayer or the afternoon prayer or the evening prayer or once a week, whatever. At least it's a reminder that their faith should play a major part of their life. And we know these apps do, we know the phone does, but prayer helps everyone. And we really need more people and more young people to pray. And this app, again, it is wonderful reminder because it's right on the phone. It's right on that iPad. It's right on that Google Assistant. It really is there to remind them, hey, pray. And I love when my own children come and say, Dad, I prayed today. I forgot, but the app reminded me to pray, or I was scrolling through and I saw it, or I was having a bad day. And just seeing that icon there reminded me that I could pray to my faith. And that's a wonderful thing. And I wish more people would download it and teach students about this app and about their faith formation is part of every day. Teachers in social media, we really, as our formation, have to be models of our faith formation professionally, personally, and in the community. We know teachers, as teachers, we have our own personal social media. We know that there's parent pages out there that are not so good about the school. Uh, all this is part of our formation, our parish, our school, and our life. How are we engaging us as role models of faith formation on social media, being a professional, being Switzerland, being about God, being about representatives of our church, our parish, and our personal lives? Yes, you may have professional social media pages, or you may not, but your personal page says a lot about your faith formation. How are you speaking to people? How are you doing things on social media? You may say, oh, don't worry about it. I'm blocked. But many of us live in the community we teach in. And we have to worry about that. And our students are seeing that through snapshots, Instagram, whatever, of parents sending things like that, and how parents in our community are talking to each other. It's getting worse and worse, but we have to model and not ignore that social media is now influencing formation in our students. It really is. Who are they following? Things like that. Uh, Distance learning instruction, this will be available afterwards. I don't want to go through most of them, but I want to talk about the community and importance of relationships. Uh, as I say with social media and things like that, what are we doing on social media, your classes, anything like that, about feast days and celebrations and prayers, like I said, about the cook, the pray? And the regular school day also has community buildings like activities, breaks, games, just hang out with each other. How are you fitting all this in your virtual environment? I have the cathedral in Chicago in my background right here, just showing students, this is the mindset we're in. You can have a classroom. Do you have a cross when you're doing your classes via Zoom or Google Meet? Is there artifacts that you put into your slides? If you looked at my slides, I have some church symbols all over this. Some I have none, because you want the slides not to be too busy, but you want that reminder that we're in a Catholic setting. If it's a feast day, if it's a something special going on, the Lenten season, are using the colors. These little things for formation are very important when we're doing things virtual, hybrid, or even in person now. Really getting them together and using things like the Archdiocese of Seattle website. That prayer piece, we start our classes with a prayer. We end our classes with a prayer. We, lunch, things like that. Are we continuing to do that on our virtual environments? Even if they're home and they're not on the virtual environments, and it's an asynchronous day from them, not a synchronous day. Are you reminding them before lunch? Hey, make sure you pray. Use the app, use this, use that. Are you doing those things? Because, with some churches still closed and virtual, some parents do not want to go to Mass right now in the pandemic, and they're viewing things online and they can't receive the sacrament. Are we doing everything we can to make sure we're embedding our Catholic formation into what they're supposed to be doing? Social emotional learning and things like that are very important these days. And, we sometimes focus on academics, which I'm not saying is not important. It is extremely important. But the spiritual needs of students are, our schools are sometimes the only place they get that spiritual needs. And in this virtual environment, how are we making sure we're saying we're still Catholic education, at the home? Some ideas are a little prayer spot in their room, or, sending crosses home. So some, to have in the house that the students have. It's amazing today how many houses don't have a cross or some kind of religious artifact in their house. And the only thing they're getting it from it is our virtual environment. really need to focus on that and making sure that it is present every day and making sure we connect. The spiritual needs of our students are so important. What makes us Catholic educators? What makes us different? Community, prayer, and formation. You know, that is what we're excellent at. Academics is academics. We are extremely, extremely great at academics. But what makes us great is our community, our prayer, and our formation. And in this virtual environment, sometimes we focus more on academics than that faith formation. We must integrate faith formation in everything we do. And that's what makes us great. So, with all that said, I'm going to stop sharing and give my final thoughts. In today's world, it's not going to go back to normal. We're all getting vaccinated and things like that, and our students are going to come back. But there's still going to be need for technology and formation. And how we do that and how we keep perfecting that is going to make us survive in this next trend, not trend, but next wave of education and being Catholic educators. I hope all of you are well. I hope you enjoyed this session. My email is psanfran@hotmail.com. I always take questions, and if you'd like to reach out, that's great. I hope you have a great rest of the conference and enjoy the sessions. Thank you.